I had a hard time figuring out my biggest influences, I guess, but
Yeah. No, it'll be
I
good.
did what I could.
All right, let's just get into it.
Okay, let's jump right in.
See what happens.
Okay.
All right. Welcome to episode 5 of Inside MNU Athletics podcast. I'm Sports Information Director Chad Jenkins. I'm joined by head strength and conditioning coach and weightlifting coach Whitney Rodden. Welcome, Whitney.
Thank you.
So, what is your title now? Let's talk about your new team. What's that? I don't even know. So I'm finding out with everybody else. Go
Okay.
ahead.
For our weightlifting team, we are focused on Olympic style weightlifting. So that is the snatch and the clean and jerk.
Okay.
And we compete in those 2 lifts. You get 3 lifts in the snatch and 3 lifts in the clean and jerk. And then we do all kinds of training to build up.
And how many athletes do you have?
I have 10
Okay.
as of right now.
And did you recruit those yourself? Were they here already? How did that process go?
Both.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing when I jumped into this.
Right.
And I leaned a lot on our current coaches, and that was super helpful. I am very grateful and thankful for all of their guidance and assistance. But I reached out to our admissions counseling staff, and they had sent out a message to quite a few students or prospective students saying, hey, we have a weightlifting team now. If you're interested, contact me. And so that kind of got the ball rolling with some of our athletes. Some of our current athletes recommended, hey, why don't you reach out to my friend? And
sure.
So that's kind of how it worked. And then through the USA Weightlifting website, we are listed as a university that has scholarships for weightlifting. So that's seen by quite a few as well.
And when will they compete? And will they compete here? Where do they go? And how's that going to work?
We try to stay with local meets. Our goal is to go to like 3 or 4 meets this year, and that being local. And if we qualify I'm focusing on university championships, which is in March. Let's hope that it's in March,
right.
Not virtual or anything like that.
Sure.
So our goal is to get qualified. So you have to qualify for a national meet at local meets. So I'm taking a few kids to my friend's gym this weekend that's hosting a meet. So there's those. Some are prepared, the new ones that have never done Olympic lifting, and that was okay with me. Like, we're just want to get some traction.
Trying to get the ball rolling here.
Yeah, and so some are not ready, and we'll go to another meet at the end of the semester. So it just really depends on who's hosting, and we'll probably stay within the Midwest. We're not going to go too far for a local meet. But
okay. So you talked about hopefully that it's in March and there's not any delays. So how are you guys dealing with COVID now? And have you had any quarantines, and how has that gone, especially with weightlifting when you're screaming and grunting and spitting and sweating all over the place?
I guess it's no different than the rest of the teams too. Right. They're all spitting and grunting, and
yes.
Especially football, they get all fired up when somebody's doing a big bench press and like, no, stay away from each other. I've tried to discourage max lifts on that, but it really, with only having 10 and having random schedules, they don't really come in together a whole lot right now. I try to get most of them in best I can, at least one day a week. But I just keep them all spread out just like I do the other teams, and yeah. I've had a couple in quarantine, but it hasn't been too bad. We've managed.
Good.
They're more bored and frustrated than than anything.
So let's go back to the beginning. How did you come to MNU in the first place?
I came here to play softball.
Yeah. And
was a catcher and an outfielder. And my mentor got me into Olympic lifting, and so he said, why don't you try competing?
Who was that?
That was Coach Cross.
Okay.
So he was here. I got here, this will date me. I got here in 97.
Okay.
He had just gotten here in 96. And so, ever since he started working with me, I fell in love with this,
Right.
strength and conditioning.
So you were here for softball, and then you lift as part of that. And then what was his influence specifically that got you into strength and conditioning and the training and all that kind of stuff?
I noticed the difference in how I was playing, and so I grew up on a farm, so I'm not afraid of hard work
Right.
and lifting heavy things. My dad always gave me the heavy end of augers and things like that. I don't even know if half our kids know what an auger is, but
Probably not.
yeah.
What's your sibling situation?
I had an older sister,
So it was
and she farms almost full time now. But
right. So my mom was one of 4 girls on a farm, and so
nice.
without the brothers there to kind of take that traditional role of lifting heavy things, my mom and her sisters can throw around bales of hay with the best of them, no
Yes.
problem. So I'm assuming that's what you and your
Yes.
sister were like.
Maybe it's a Jenkins thing because my maiden
That's
name's
right.
Jenkins.
That's right. I remember
So
that.
Jenkins are farmers.
Jenkins women. My mom's, that's not her name though, but
yeah,
whatever.
That's true. Yeah.
She knew that she was going to be. So
Yeah.
the Jenkins women are plenty strong for sure.
Yes.
So your biggest influence as an athlete would have been Coach Cross.
Yes.
Who
I would say so.
And was he also, what kind of influence was he as a coach with your coaching style?
He really helped guide me in how to coach, he was always telling me, use your big girl voice, because I was always so like timid, and now I don't mind yelling at a whole team if I need to.
Right.
My voice doesn't really, go very far, but I'm trying.
Same.
Yeah. So yeah, he just, really paved the way on helping me, even approaching where I'm standing in, relation to somebody lifting
Right.
a bar. So
this was Coach Tom Cross, who recently passed away. What was it, a few months ago?
yeah,
Or
it'll
was it?
be like 9 months ago, I think.
Okay.
It was in January last year.
Yeah, so he was here. This is year 14 for me, and he was here that whole time, and everyone seemed to love him, and he was always full of wisdom and one-liners and
Yes.
quotes and everything. He was a character for sure.
Yes.
What was your faith background? You talked a little bit about how you grew up. What was your faith testimony?
I always grew up in a church and
Yeah.
grew up Presbyterian and, small town. Most of them are farmers, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I always had a solid faith base. And then when I came to America, it was a little different because going from small town Presbyterian church to pretty big, Nazarene school and college church and stuff. So it was just a different way to view my faith and my journey and what, God had for me. And so I feel like it just kind of continued to evolve and develop, and I feel like I'm still a work in progress. I feel like we're all probably still a work in progress, but at what
Sure.
level is different for everybody. But
So what I've noticed in my time here, you were here before me, obviously. Did you ever?
barely.
Right.
I think
Did
it's
you
been
ever?
15 years for me.
So when did you actually start being an employee rather than a student?
So I graduated in 01, went to K-State, KU for 4 years. So I came back in 05.
Okay. Yeah, I was started in 07. So yeah, our paths have pretty much crossed.
Yes.
So what I notice is that everybody loves Whitney Rodden. Okay? When we do Hall of Fame ceremonies, you are thanked by 100% of those people who are up there. And you must notice that, and that feels good to be
It
like,
was
oh,
nice to
yeah,
be
yes.
recognized. Yeah.
And you work with all the athletes all the time. I don't, I cover the athletes. I don't see them. I don't have the relationship that you do. And I'm way more behind the scenes. But everybody loves Whitney Rodden, and you get thanked all the time. You get the biggest cheer when we are introducing all the coaches. It's a true story. So
Okay.
and you can be effusive if you must, but that it's true. And how do you, is that on purpose, or does just everyone love you all the time, no matter what?
I don't know that everyone loves me all the time, no matter what. I could have to give them a little grief if they are not behaving appropriately.
Right. And I think people appreciate that honesty as well, and that's
Yeah.
probably part of it.
But yeah. And I really feel like I don't know, the college age is where I feel like I thrive the best in like giving them the best guidance I can. You know, I'm kind of like the mom away from mom, or
Mama Rodden. I've heard that before. Yes.
Yeah. And you know, I just try to love on them as much as I can. I'm sure it's hard for some to make that transition and let them know that, you know, even though I might be upset with them, you know, it just depends on what's going on, that I still care about them, and I'm doing it for their own good, just like a parent, right? This hurts me more than it hurts you.
Right.
And so, yeah, I just love to get to know them and help them be on the right path when they leave here.
So it's an intentional thing. If I want to be thanked by Hall of Famers, I need to be more intentional about what I do with people, I guess. And,
yes. You're a quiet guy. So
I am. And
my husband's the same way. So, but you're very witty and you have the best punchlines.
But doing a podcast like this is very strange for me because I'm always behind a camera. So being in front of one is very strange for me. So, and if you've noticed that I'm wearing the same sweatshirt that I wore for the Bryce interview, I don't know what to tell you. It's the Cubbies.
It still looks good. Yeah, our family's a Cubbies fan, Bears fans. I mean,
same.
We're on the same.
I'm going to wear my Cubs World Series sweatshirt any chance I get, so that's fine.
You should.
How did you mention your husband? How did you meet?
We met here. Seems like the traditional route of Mid-America. You know.
Was he in your same grade?
Do what?
Was he in your same grade?
No, he was a year older than me.
Okay.
And he was one that always influenced me in the weight room too, because he was like, if you want to lift heavy weight, you got to use heavy weight. I'm like, all right. I know, because Coach Cross is always like, you got to go lighter and, you know, do it right and whatever. But
so what was his?
He played football.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, he played football, and
his brother Tyler, right, also was an offensive lineman here. He was here during my time and was a stud offensive lineman. So what?
Yep. What
was that? How did that relationship start? Go ahead and go through it.
We were friends first. That's what I always encourage our kids. Be friends first. Yes. And so, is that what you mean? Like, okay. I didn't know if you meshed Tyler in. I wasn't sure. So
that was a weird transition. Let's just ignore
that segue. Yeah, that's
let's
all right.
just ignore that. I was just saying, I know that guy too. Go ahead.
Yeah, we actually had quite a few Rodden family members.
Okay.
So, I guess we could start. Yeah, it started with Jeff. Jeff was the first one to come into America, and then Carrie. So, my sister-in-law, she played basketball here.
Okay.
And then somehow Carrie was dating Jeff's brother. I know this is going to get confusing. And somehow, and Carrie and I were friends, and we got connected too.
Just in the same circle.
Yeah, we're all in the same circle of friends. And so we fell in love, and
here you go.
Here we are. But yeah, so then while I was dating Jeff, found out at that time, I met all of his family. There's 5 total siblings.
Okay.
And so Tyler was the youngest, and I think he was 11 at that time. So I started coaching Tyler when he was in junior high.
Oh, okay.
So we would do weightlifting camps in the summer, and so him and his sister, Tiffany, came here, and we learned how to lift weights. And then Greg played baseball here, one of the other brothers, for a little bit, and Todd actually coached him.
Okay, so the Roddens are all over MNU.
We are.
Sure. Yeah.
And then my sister-in-law, other one, Tyler married Ashley, and Ashley played softball here.
Okay.
I think that's
Maylee. I remember her.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And we had the same jersey number.
Okay.
It was meant to be, I guess.
All right. Well, let's get into Harper's story.
Okay.
This will be difficult, I'm imagining, but let's do it anyway.
That's okay. I'm kind of used to sharing her story.
Right. So Whitney went through what every parent's biggest nightmare is. I'm a father of 4, and I'm already getting choked up talking about it. But go ahead and tell the story of Harper and what happened to her, and go ahead and tell that story of those few days there.
Okay. It's okay.
I know.
It's all right.
You're the one who has to comfort people all the time.
I know.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, I have shed many tears, so it's okay. So yeah, Harper was our 14-month-old daughter,
And you've got 2 older ones.
we have 2 older ones. Yep, Cole,
No.
who's 14 now, and Kinsley, who's 11 now.
Okay.
And they were what, 10 and 6 at the time.
This was
that
4 years
happened?
ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not good with math.
Right.
So, yeah, and she was at her in-home daycare, and they were licensed and everything. And I've been good friends with them for
Right.
years. And so I say that because some people probably think, well, why would you go there when you didn't trust them? You know what I mean?
Sure.
That always weirds me out too.
Right.
I did trust them, and it's just we're trying to change some things and we're just moving forward. But
Right.
so she did you want me to
You
explain
tell the
how?
story, yeah. Let's
Okay.
go for it.
So this is
If
how
you're
it
comfortable.
happens.
Yeah.
So, and it's never intentional, and but she was hit by a truck outside of her daycare, and she, they were out front playing, which was a normal occurrence,
Mhm.
and it was a different person that was coming to pick up his grandchild, and she actually darted out to try to, because she saw Grandpa coming, darted out.
The kid that was being picked up darted out.
Yeah, darted out, saw Grandpa coming, and he parked real quick, but parked kind of weird at the end of the driveway. So she went to grab the girl. My provider grabbed the girl, and so she wouldn't go out into the street, and she was helping get readjusted and into the truck, and he noticed he was parked weird, and so he just barely pulled up and didn't realize Harper had followed
Right.
my provider. So
And how old was Harper?
she was 14 months
Oh,
old.
you said that. 14
Mhm.
months.
And so since that, I've learned that it's the bye-bye syndrome, where they see their, caretaker leaving and they want to go follow him,
Right.
and no one knew.
So she was struck by the truck, and I assume that the caretaker immediately called 911, and then they called you. What was that? Where were you when you found out? What was that phone call?
So I do have some guilt there that I wasn't at work. I was thought, okay, well, I'm paying for childcare. I'm going to use it, and
Sure.
I wanted to have the other 2 kids have a fun, rest day at the pool with their friends.
Mm-hmm.
Without having to run around and chase.
Right. This happened, what was it, in August? It was during the summer.
July.
July,
Yeah.
okay.
So it was right before school was
Or
starting.
middle
I'm
of
like,
summer.
okay, we'll just, let the kids have a day with their friends. And
Sure.
so I was about to leave anyways, and I just missed the call. I was grabbing my stuff, and I just missed the call. And I think I called back, and then I heard sirens in the background. I'm like, oh, I just need to hurry up and go. Something happened. I need to go pick her up earlier. But I was already on my way.
Right.
And then I think it was another parent that had called and said what was going on, and they were doing CPR. And so I was trying to rush to get to the house so that I could go with them.
So you were going to drop off your older kids and then go?
I left them with my friend that I was there
Okay.
with, and their friends.
Gotcha.
So I don't know what happened. I just left, and she took care of them, and the rest of the family coordinated. I don't know how they coordinated so quickly, but that's the way, and I'm going to cry on this, but that's the way the Roddens work. We,
Right.
Even if, if there's a tiff going on, it's okay. We have each other's backs.
So you get the call, you're rushing over there, and what do you know before you get there? Do you know it's serious because they're doing CPR?
Yeah, it was kind of progressive. So I'm by myself, and I was calling Jeff. I was calling my mom, Jeff's mom.
And in a situation like this, sorry for details, but
That's okay.
are you frantic and freaking out, or are you calm and focused on the task that's next?
A little bit of both.
Okay. Right.
I'm like, it's okay. Like, God, you got her. She's okay. She's going to be all right. I figured CPR, surely they'll, kids bounce back. You don't even think about it. It's not even on your radar.
Right.
And so I'm trying to get to the house, and it's kind of weird because I was in Spring Hill. And then on my way there, I get a call from, I think it was the police officer or, I don't know, somebody, firefighter, that said, okay, they're transporting her to Children's Mercy downtown. And then that was another level of, oh, like, that's serious when they go to downtown Children's Mercy, not, the Kansas one. So I try to get onto 69 Highway from 175th, and, like, it was, like, blocked to get on to where I needed to go north.
Heavy traffic.
A little bit of traffic. Yeah, it was like 4:30, and traffic was starting to pick up. And so I did the illegal turn and turned in the middle of the where the cops usually turn around.
Right.
Like, I really don't care. I am getting there. And I might have driven on the side of on the shoulder to pass some traffic, and I really didn't care. And
no one's gonna blink twice at that for sure.
I know. And I should have called. I wasn't thinking. I should have called my cop friends and had them pick me up.
Get some sort of escort.
Yeah, but I didn't think about that at the time. I was just trying to hurry up and get there. But so
how far away are you from the hospital at this point? Is this 20 minutes?
It was probably closer to 30 with traffic. Right. And I took 69 and then had to jockey over to get to 35. And then trying to find the one-way streets in downtown was
so it's just
it's a little chaotic.
It's just awful, especially and where was Jeff during all this?
He was trying to get there from Belton, which is where he was working at the time. Okay. So he was hitting traffic too. And
now, is he the type that's driving on the shoulder and freaking out as well, or is he focused and just getting there?
I don't know how he drove to get there.
I can only. That's the thing. As a parent, you can only imagine yourself in this scenario, and I know that when you, every parent, and I don't think you can possibly understand it until you're a parent, but once you have children and you realize that these are your responsibility and you imagine bad things happening to them and how you would respond to it, there's really nothing that you can prepare for it. And I've always, I don't know, there's a sort of admiration for how you've handled it the last few years.
Thank you.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I would be jumping shoulders and curbs and all that trying to get there. So I was always just curious as to how that went for you. So go ahead.
It was like every level. Like, I got that second call, and I think that was the last communication I'd had. So it was another level of anxiety of, oh my gosh, this is serious. And I was praying the whole way, like, again, God, you've got her. I didn't know how much he had her. But luckily, my brother-in-law Gary met me. Like, he got there at the exact same time I did, and I think the ambulance actually passed him, and I think he knew it was hard. But I was just praying I didn't have to make a decision of, okay, is this all on me on whether she lives or not? You know what I mean? Like,
sure. Like, so if there's a decision to be made about
I didn't want to have to be there by myself and make that decision. And luckily, Jeff wasn't too far behind me either.
So you get to the hospital and you find the room, and what's being done at that point, or was it already over?
They, I had to check in with. I didn't know what I don't know if I think I had my purse because they needed my ID, and I'm like, I think Gary took care of it. I honestly don't know. It was kind of a blur. I'm like, my child's in there, like, let me through. So I think the nurses probably helped too. And we were met by a chaplain and a social worker. Which is
never a good sign.
Then I really knew. I'm like, okay. So they took us to like a family room, and they're trying to explain, what's going on. And I was like, well, can I see her? I'm like, why are we sitting here?
Right.
So they let me in, and they were still working on her at that time, and
if you
still
don't
doing
mind,
CPR. And
what were the injuries? Was it a head, or was it
was
internal
head
stuff?
Yeah, she was bleeding from her nose, ears. I don't remember if she was bleeding from her mouth, but it was all internal, and she had a huge bruise on the left. It didn't look. Everything else was fine, and she was intact, and I don't know how I would have handled that if there was, not that it was, it was bad enough, but
And was that from the truck itself or from the fall? Did they know?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I assume, I don't know.
Right.
I think she was run over completely. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know. I've looked at the police reports. I'm like, okay. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if I want to. I don't even know if she was in front of the front tire, back tire, but it was a front over, which she wasn't backed over. It was front. So front overs happen all the time too.
Right. Yeah. And so just a nightmare. And I'm sorry that you were having you relive it. But
I know.
Yeah, I heard the story bits and pieces, so I've never really heard it from you specifically. And you know how stories go when they're told.
Yeah.
Details are changed and different things happen. So
yeah. I mean, they tried. They really. And the doctor she was really good. She was like, got in my face and was like, look.
Told you the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I appreciated. I mean, it felt like it was like an out of body experience though. Right. It was weird.
Did they say?
It was like I was there, but I wasn't. I don't know.
And did they say we're still working on her, but it's not looking good?
Yeah.
Or it's
she's had a serious head injury. We're gonna try, 1 or 2 more rounds of. I think they did, I don't know, like 5 rounds of epinephrine to get her heart to start on its own, and then they tried one more time and it didn't work.
And so, at that point, are you certain, not certain, but you're assuming that it's over and you've lost her already? Or is it or is it like maybe there's a chance? What was
I was, because they were all crowded around her and they said, okay, we'll give her meds, I think, one more time, and then you can touch her and you can talk to her. And I'm like, okay. So I was just trying to encourage her, like,
keep
come on, Harper,
kind of thing,
yeah. Stay with us. But yeah, I put my head on her chest after they stopped, and I felt like I went with her.
I can only, yeah.
And part of me did. I think we all kind of live like part of us is in heaven with her, part of us, and for a while, part of myself, I felt like I was like at the grave and then somehow still on earth, but.
Right. No, my kids will say something like, hey, Daddy, what would you do if I died,
You're like, don't say that.
And I'm like, or what would you do if I were kidnapped, And it's like, well, for you, I'd wait 10 minutes to bring you right back.
Yeah.
But when they say, what would you do if I died? And I like to have fun and screw around and answer silly questions with silly answers, but that's hardly a silly question.
Yeah.
Even though they're not really, they're 10 years
old. They don't
old.
think about it, yeah.
And I said, that would destroy me. And I know that on some level it does. And so go ahead and explain what, how is that for you? You have 2 other kids that you still need to worry about, and a husband and family, and all this life must go on some level, but what is that like?
I was definitely in a pit for quite a while, and my personality, it's like, that's not my nature.
Right.
To be depressed and to be, not my normal bubbly self. And, I honestly think, you asked about those days, like right after too, like that was probably the one time in my life that I've like physically, I think all of our family physically felt prayers working. It was like people showed up at the time that you needed them.
Right.
So it wasn't like too much at one time. It was like an even flow. It was weird. And even in the, at the funeral too, and we had it here at College Church, so it's kind of hard to go to funerals still here, but
right.
I don't know, when we were coming down, I just felt like we had our pastors in front between College Church and ours and Heritage, and I don't know, it felt like we had an armor like taking care of us. It was, at least that's the feeling I had.
Right.
And so that was comforting, even though we're going through what felt like every cell in our bodies were shredded.
Right.
And I lost my dad suddenly 2 years before Harper, and that was pretty intense too, and that felt like a shot to the chest.
Right.
And then this was like,
I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that. What happened to him?
He just didn't wake up
Wow.
one morning. So yeah, I think, and I don't know, I'm sure all, death is not fun, but I think when it's like immediate like that, it's an even bigger shock to the system. So, but it took a while, to dig out of that. And
and I remember the weeks and months afterwards seeing you. It would be like, hey, how are you? And then it's like, oh man, how is she?
And people don't know how to handle me. And I realized that, I recognized that very quickly.
Sure.
Like, it's okay. Like I'm okay with talking about her, or,
right. And I wanted to know, and you talked a little bit about it. I think you saw, you had a therapist and you had a darn it doll.
Yes.
To be more
more politically correct,
family friendly for the podcast.
Yes.
And
my pediatrician gave me that.
Yeah. And so, but seeing you deal with that, you see Whitney Rodden, she's the strength and conditioning coach, and she's physically strong and mentally strong. And here she is at her lowest point, and people surrounded you and loved you and all that. And it's just really inspiring to see that and the kind of impact that you can have on people. And, people thank you all the time for a reason. People love Whitney Rodden. And it was really great to see that support. So, what was that like to have that such a huge support system, basically?
Yeah, it was incredible. And I didn't know how to even take I just had to focus on like breathing. Like I would just be holding my breath and like, okay, I just had to take lots of deep breaths and just, you may have one step forward of, slowly healing, and then you get 10 steps back. And I mean, just having the support and knowing, like, even with teams, because teams are starting to train in August. Like, all the coaches just kind of, they just banded together and just took care of everything. And it was, it was really good feeling like I had a family here too to help get me through the hard times.
Do you remember the all athletes meeting that year?
Mm-hmm.
And you had talked, that's when you kind of started talking about Harper's Hugs, and we'll get into that in a second. But I hosted that meeting that year, and I knew that I was going to have to introduce you and talk about what happened. And I've always been fascinated by people who can speak at funerals or even sing at funerals without tearing up. And
Cole spoke at Harper's funeral. I'm like, I don't even know how he did that.
Right. And that wrecked everybody. I was there. I was at the funeral, and then was it Bo Weissend and his wife?
Oh my gosh, Bo and Katie.
They sang
beautifully.
And I'm like, how do they do that?
I don't know either.
I was wrecked from the moment I stepped into the church. And what really did it for me, this is a segue, but I'm in line, and the line goes, to the parking lot all the way down the aisle to the front, and you guys, and Keith Dixon was like 10 people in front of me. And you remember Keith Dixon was one of the biggest screw-offs in the history of athletics. And he and I kind of connected on that because I was the biggest screw-off in the history of athletics when I played. And so
good athlete, though. Make sure you
of course,
say
I'll
that.
Get there. He he played football and baseball, and he was good at both. But when I was a coach, I was an assistant baseball coach, and he was on the team, and I was inappropriately screwing around all the time, just like he was. So we were the same type of personality.
Yes.
And I saw him, and it was going to be like, hey, Keith, and maybe some sort of
joke,
screwy banter. But he was crying, and I'd never seen him do that before. And that's when it really hit me. His teammate was Tyler, right? Mm-hmm. So his teammate's niece had just died, and he was wrecked from that, and seeing him wrecked me more, and it was just
it
was brutal. But yeah, back to the all athletes meeting. I was hosting that, and I had to introduce you, and I was just like, how am I going to do this without crying? And this is certainly not about me, so just get it together and say it. Yeah, and so it was really bizarre just trying to okay, don't think about what's going on, just say the words, It was really strange. It was just a really strange experience.
In another place. Yeah.
But remember, then we would introduce all the coaches for the year. Hey, this is Coach Wilmer, the football coach. This is Coach Thompson, the baseball coach. This is Whitney Rodden, the strength coach. And everyone, you always got the biggest applause anyway because all the teams related to you. So every, the football team would have a big cheer because there's 100 of them.
Yeah.
And then the soccer teams would have no cheers because they're all cool and reserved, right? They don't care. But Whitney Rodden, always the biggest cheer because everyone worked with her. But then the cheer kept going, and then they all stood, and it went forever.
Yeah, it was cool.
I'm sitting there just going,
they can take care of it for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's when you started to talk about Harper's Hugs. So go ahead and talk about what this has led to as far as your advocacy and all that.
Yeah, so let me go get you a tissue. I'm just kidding.
I was going to bring one. I was going to bring one for you, and I'm like,
you can use your scar or your mask.
Yeah, use the mask.
Yeah, so, almost immediately after it happened, we knew we didn't want anybody else to have to go through this, and found out that there's a couple other organizations that, quite a few children die from being hit by cars, and we didn't realize it was such a common thing. Right. A friend of ours, they, his brother had been backed over and lived, and had still had some brain damage, but still lived. But we knew that was the only other person that we knew of that, something like this had happened to.
I think around that time, was it Stephen Curtis Chapman's child was the same thing, yeah. And it was around that time, so it was kind of in the consciousness at the time.
Yeah. So so we found out, I know I'm going to get back to Harper's Hugs, but we got involved a little bit with kids in cars, and then child care aware, and have found out that there's children that die in child care
right
often too, and have discovered a whole other realm there too.
Right.
But with Harper's Hugs, we thought, okay, there's got to be a way that we can, because Harper gave the best hugs, and so she'd wrap her arms around your neck and cross her legs and hold on tight,
right,
and hugged with her whole body and soul. And I would let go of my hands and she'd still be holding on.
Right.
And she was only 14 months old.
Right.
So.
And that was all the athletes knew about that. She would hug the athletes and stuff like that.
I would bring her to work.
It was a thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And she didn't know a stranger. She would always go to the
Right.
athletes, and they'd help me out if I was in the middle of something.
Sure.
But, and so Tina, my mother-in-law, was like, let's, she was known for her hugs, and, maybe we can give out teddy bears to children that might need a hug if
Right.
they're, being taken from their home. So we give them to police officers, first responders, or if they're in an accident and they need some distraction, or at hospitals, they just need some sort of comfort. And so we put a little tag on it and just says, hey, this is from Harper and she's with you, and just another way to spread awareness of
Right.
the dangers of children in cars, and then just following up on childcare situations. And so yeah.
So how much has that grown in the last 4 years or so? Or what was how many bears have you?
Yeah,
passed?
we were.
Did you keep track of that kind of stuff?
My mother-in-law does. Tina
Yeah.
does a better job of it than I do. She, I think it was before her Harper's birthday. So that happened on July 27th. Her birthday's May 5th.
Okay.
She's a Cinco de Mayo baby.
Okay.
And we were hoping we could get all 50 states, at least one stuffed animal in each state. And we did it.
Nice.
So that was kind of exciting.
Sure.
And in some countries, because we have international students here, so they were willing to help out too.
Right.
And so I don't know, I've kind of gone through waves of I'll push, or we'll do it with our weightlifting meets. We'll have that as, hey, entry fee is donation to Harper's Hugs or stuffed animal.
Right.
And so I don't know. I've lost track of how many we've actually
That's great.
gotten out. But yeah. And actually just recently I got a phone call from parent, wife, whatever. They started a new high school in Jefferson City.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's a part of, so her husband's the head coach, and she is in charge of the American Football Coaches Association's wives group.
Okay.
So this is like a national organization,
Right.
and she found out about Harper's Hugs and wants to do that as their like big fundraiser
That's
this
great.
year. So she's trying to hit all 50 states as well. So we're in the works with that. And so that's kind of fun to, see the impact.
Sure.
But I mean, and I don't know, I'm sure you're the same way, and like John Lewis and other people I know say, with our kids, and I'm kind of shifting gears, but with their kids, they always are reminded by Harper, like,
Right.
hey, pay attention when you're out in the street or
Sure.
parking lots and stuff. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wanted you to know that I literally think about Harper every day when I back out of my garage. And I don't, we've known each other for years, but I don't even, I knew you had a child. I didn't know what her name was at the time.
Yeah.
I wasn't really
Yeah.
all that aware of
Yeah.
my colleagues'
well, you
children
have
at the
little
time.
kids too.
I had
and
my own things to deal
you're
with.
in your own world. I get it. Yeah.
And so, but since that day, when I open the garage and I put it in reverse and lay off the brake, my car kind of jumps in reverse, right? When I go out, and my driveway sloped, so I'm going fast immediately. And every day I think about it, I'm like, man, I didn't check the mirror there. And we got little kids coming to our house all the time because my house is kind of the hub where the neighborhood kids come.
You have all the food there.
It's
usually
mostly
our
mostly I've
situation,
got 4 kids and they're all different colors and different hair and different. So I've got the Russian kids at the end of the driveway coming, and they're from Kazakhstan or something, but they're also Asian. I don't know what their deal is.
You're the international house.
So we've got this whole diverse cul-de-sac, but kids are always running over and cutting through the driveway and all this. And every day I think about Harper Rodden, and I hadn't before that. It's been 4 years, and every time I back out. So, I mean, if nothing else, that has happened. So
feel free to yell at them too, because I do that. I'll yell at the kids if I see. I don't even know these, the neighbor kids. I'm like,
Right.
I see them zooming around our stop sign, or I'll yell at people for not stopping at our stop sign.
Right.
I'm the crazy mom. Hopefully I don't embarrass my family too much, but I'm like, and then dropping off, we do the carpool thing, and I'm stopped. This was just last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I stopped to let one of Cole's buddies out, and I see there was kids over there, and I'm always like super cautious in neighborhoods anyways, and this kid comes driving like right by my car, not even on the sidewalk, and he's driving his bike over, and I'm like, I rolled down the window, I'm like, would you get on the sidewalk? I'm like, a car can hit you.
Right.
And I ripped him. I didn't see any parents out.
Yeah.
And that's what infuriates me. I'm
Right.
like, you got a kid with a pacifier and you're not even out there watching him.
Right. Right.
I have to.
So
that's really hard for me.
So have you become? I'm guessing you
The
weren't
crazy
always
one?
like
Yes.
that. So you've become hyper vigilant and
Oh my
hyper aware
gosh,
all the
yes.
time. Is that an added stressor for you, or is it like
it's constant.
it's totally justified, so it's fine, and I'm not even going to worry about it?
It's justified.
Right. So
Nobody wants to go through this.
No.
So, and sometimes I'm like, ooh, should I tell them that they're not parenting right? Or, not even, but like,
Or just tell your.
I try to
tell
figure
your
out
story real
ways,
quick,
like,
yeah.
that it's not, that is hard for me when I'm feeling like I'm telling them, hey, you're doing it wrong, or, you know what I mean? Just,
no, the mommy wars is real. So, but,
yes.
but when.
Or I'll
it's-
yell at our college students for going way too fast in the parking lot, or they're
Right.
hanging off the side of their SUV. I'm like, I stop them. I'm like, this is not okay.
Right.
I seriously feel like I'm crazy sometimes.
It's
I
possible.
may have thrown a shaker cup at a car one time. I don't know if you want to include that or not, but
That's up to you.
they were flying through our neighborhood. It wasn't long after Harper had passed either. And
I mean,
they were
that's
going probably 50, and it was dark.
through your neighborhood, and you threw
One of my like Isogenic shaker cups.
what's a shaker cup?
To like
Like
shake, like
A protein shake thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
it wasn't super, like it wasn't this hard of plastic, but it was like a thin plastic, and I
Did you
chucked it. My softball skills came into
right.
play.
The question is, did you hit them? Were you accurate?
I did. I hit them
Oh,
in the
nice.
tire.
Did
Would have felt bad if it
Did
would
they
have.
stop?
No, they even pumped their brakes. Nothing. Even one of the other neighbors yelled at them.
Wow.
And then I was freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna come around and like attack me now. Jeff was like, "What are you doing?"
Well, that would have been a mistake on their part. I would
Yeah.
imagine. I don't think you would have been in trouble at all in that
Okay,
situation.
yeah. Well, no, he wasn't even home. That was part of the problem. Like,
No, I mean, like, if they try to attack Whitney Rodden
Oh,
in that
they would've-
state,
yeah,
they would
no.
have eaten some knuckles, and that would have been bad news for them.
yes.
All right.
And my
so-
kids still make fun of me for doing that. But I'm like, hey,
Yeah,
it made me feel better.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
It's a darn it dull moment.
Yes.
So, all right, we've gone through this year's team. We made it through that segment, I think, pretty good. That was good for
Yeah.
us.
I'm excited. The team's fun.
What is your life like outside of MNU? What are your interests outside? Now, of course, there's Harper's Hugs and advocacy, but like,
Mhm.
what are your hobbies outside of coaching? Does that
Loaded
exist?
question.
Does that exist for us? You know,
Jeff thinks I need a better hobby than just working out, or
right?
he goes hunting and stuff. I don't. I
Right.
mean, my fun is I'll do workouts with my neighbors or friends, and we go to sport. Like the kids are involved in sports, so we're busy
Right.
doing that.
Movies? Are you a movie fan? What are your favorite movies? That's a personality question.
Yeah.
What's some of you got one movie to watch? What do you got?
Well, lately for us, it hasn't really been movies. Kinsley plays The Office
Oh,
constantly.
sure.
We've
And she's 11?
yes.
Wow. That's like more advanced humor. That's good for an 11-year-old.
She's pretty witty.
Yeah.
You two would get along well.
Good.
I don't know. Like sometimes I like war movies.
Sure.
We'll sit around and watch war movies, or I don't know. We haven't really gone to movies too much in the past.
Right.
I mean, sometimes, but before
Yeah.
COVID even.
When
But
when I was in like high school, my family, we would see every movie in the theater all the time. We were a huge movie family. So like from like 93 to 2000, I know every one of those movies. But once I got married and had kids, that's not a priority anymore. I'm
No.
not doing that. It's really expensive for
it's
one.
expensive, yes.
And two,
time.
and movies have kind of changed lately. And it's like, I mean, okay, I'll go see a
Yeah.
Marvel movie. Are there any other movies besides
Uh-huh.
Marvel movies anymore? It's
Yeah.
like, is there just a movie about something that happened in
Yeah.
real life?
Yeah.
Or just something, a random story somebody made up? Doesn't seem like there's
There's
any
not
of those
much of that anymore.
No.
We like funny movies.
Right.
I mean, Will Ferrell is pretty comical.
He can do it all. What's
Yes.
your? We've gone through coaching philosophy and recruiting and all that, but what is your coaching philosophy just in general? It seems like you're just
I'm a big proponent of Olympic lifting,
right.
just because I think it kills more birds with one stone, and
That's right. So
it's hard to.
and that's interesting because
do.
when I was in college, we were doing bench press and the squat rack and the concentrated curls and a T-bar and all this kind of stuff. But then when I came here, I noticed that Tom Cross was all about the Olympic lifting and never sitting or never laying down to lift and,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, go ahead and talk about that lifting style.
Yes. So doing Olympic lifts helps with explosion, which is what you need in sports, and then
Right.
coordination and stability. So I'm a huge fan of doing it right. He would always say, do it right, do it light, do it wrong, do it long. So you're just going to be, taking forever to do it until you start to put your ego at the door.
Right.
I would rather have somebody that's never done an Olympic lift than someone that says they've done Olympic lifting for years, and you're like, oh my, if they've been doing it wrong. I mean, if they've been doing it right, then yeah.
Technique, like the wrong techniques and injuries and stuff.
It's just harder to change those habits, but
I mean, I don't see a bench or a seated rack in the weight room where you're just sitting there doing curls or something.
You're not going to find that.
You're always thrusting through a squat and pushing up a weight or something. I'm like, man, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's fun. I think takes a lot of coordination and mobility, and
you get those stabilizer muscles working better than normal too, I would imagine.
Yeah. Another part of it too is I also tell our athletes, like, this is a lifetime, like, exercise too. Like, even if you're not going to do Olympic lifts, you're at least going to learn how to squat right, and you're going to do this, And I've had athletes tell me over the years, like, hey, I was at the gym and I was doing cleans or snatches or whatever, and they're like, whoa, you know what you're doing. Right. So it's kind of a compliment to both of us that they, can still show off their skills even when they're done with sports.
Sure. So who are your favorite coaches, like, outside of weightlifting? Do you watch other sports and think, boy, I like that guy or that gal and how they approach things and stuff like that?
I'm not really great at following. Well, I have been reading, and I've been reading out of the book for all of our sports. This oh my, what's it called? Oh, it's the Football Book of Wisdom.
Okay.
Or something. And so there's quotes. I'm a big quote person.
Right.
And there's like Bear Bryant in it and Vince Lombardi, and there's other, maybe lesser known coaches. Sure. I don't know. Or maybe there's lesser known to me. I don't know.
Right. Who knows?
But
they have quotes and philosophies throughout the book. Yeah.
Yeah. And so even if I'm reading it to soccer, I still try to relate it to them. And I won't say football if it says football or whatever. But so I just like the coaches or Coach Wooden,
Sure.
Those are all great books I like to read out of and share their knowledge and wisdom, and just pray that the athletes soak it in somehow.
Right. Absolutely. All right, we'll cap this off with the same question I've been asking the other coaches. In this current social climate of BLM and protests and police brutality and social unrest and all of this stuff, us in athletics sometimes can look at it and go, what is the problem here? Why can't we come together like we do in athletics? In athletics, we have the same goals and same values, and people from different ethnicities, races, backgrounds, cultures can come together and go for the same goal. And in America right now, that is not happening. So has your team been doing anything interesting involved with that? Do they talk about it? Are you guys, what is that like with your team?
Well, we've talked about it just so I understand where they're coming from.
Sure.
So I can, help them in whatever capacity I can. And I feel like we're all kind of on that same page of, treat others like you'd want to be treated, and it shouldn't matter skin color or, nationality, whatever, nothing. And so they're pretty passionate about it, I think. And some of our athletes, or some on my team, have been exposed to different situations and living situations, whether that be out in the country, in the inner city. They've kind of been exposed to, we've got a eclectic group, cultures, which is kind of,
and that's what America is, really. Is there's so many different cultures and backgrounds and experiences, and so coming all together at one point and going for the same goal. It's in athletics, we see it, and it's beautifully done, right? We got the country farm kid, we've got the inner city kid, we've got the Muslim. Sometimes we even get Muslims around here, if you would believe that. In a Nazarene school, we've got all different things, and they're all on the same team. And so it's interesting, and I'm, it's good to hear that, we're all trying to get on the same page and try to help
change that view and making it where everyone can be treated the same. And it was kind of almost refreshing to hear him say that, and just that they do want to see a change and that they want to be a part of that. So, and not in a like harsh negative way, and seeing that from young kids, I thought it was good. So I'm excited to see them.
Yeah, this age of kids that we're dealing with, they're the ones who will affect change going forward.
Yeah.
More than us old folks, I guess, if you want to say it that way. But,
yeah. I don't know how it all works with like all the other professional teams. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. That's a whole other subject of.
It's crazy difficult. Those, I mean, from no matter what side you're on, you got to admire the fervor from what people want to see and what changes need to be made and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going through at MNU,
Okay.
We're starting these diversity and inclusion type conversations. I'd love to have Victoria Haynes on the podcast and go through some of that stuff. She's Dr. Victoria Haynes is our, I don't know what her title is, but she's been going through that stuff. It's all interesting. It's all good.
Yeah. I've seen a little bit of what she's been doing.
So maybe that's an invitation down the road in case she's watching.
Heads up.
Yeah. But other than that,
anything else?
Yeah. What did you? Anything else you wanted to hit on?
I guess it kind of goes with the with this last question.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stinks that we have to stay in our bubble on campus, because I have a connection with the Lenexa Police Department.
Sure.
And they have gotten involved in the Police Athletic League. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
So it's not quite downtown. It's kind of, I don't know the exact location, but they've done a really good job with working with inner city kids and teaching them how to, they'll teach them boxing skills or just general fitness skills.
Right.
Because some of them are pretty good boxers on the
police department.
Police department, yeah.
I would imagine some of that hand-to-hand training that they get.
It's pretty impressive. So I was wanting our team to go down and teach some kids how to either lift, properly,
Sure.
or just do some general, exercise. So eventually, hopefully, we'll be a part of that and can help.
What ages are they
with our
targeting
outreach?
generally?
I mean, there's other things I know a lot of people do on campus, but
Right.
What ages?
Yeah. I mean, is this?
This is like elementary school kids. I think even up to high school kids. I think, unless it's just elementary.
So that
but
adolescent type situation. Yeah.
Where they could have. I know they've told me stories about how they, this little 10-year-old girl saw some things that.
Sure.
And it just breaks my heart that they're exposed to that, and they have a really good job of being a positive influence, and they do a cool
the police, and the police need any good PR they can get right now.
Yeah,
it's not great.
I know.
So the positive things that police departments do. I come from a family of policemen too, where I know that those guys are good.
They're still good cops.
Those are the good cops. I know my family is, and my cousin is still active, and he's a supervisor, and I ask him all the time about these scenarios that come up, like, what do you think about the procedure on this shooting that's in the news right now? And he's like, well, here's this, and this. Here's where they went wrong. Here's where they followed the law, and if it's so I've got a great resource when it comes to stuff like that. And it's just a nightmare for both sides of it, no matter what you're on. Just yesterday, the announcement for Breonna Taylor sparked more unrest, and I think a couple cops were shot. And so it's like, we got to figure something out here, because this isn't working. So
I know
any good PR that either side can get is,
they're really good about trying to have them feel like there's
extend an olive branch of some sort.
Yeah. And they want to help them get out of those situations, and even they use an old, I think it's Catholic church, and they have this huge boxing ring in the middle, but then outside, the lady that runs it, she's got this whole like garden too, and so the kids can go and help and learn how to garden and how to cook, and
All
it's
sorts
really
of stuff.
cool.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, you got some notes. You came
I
prepared.
did. I tried to come prepared as best I could.
And the other coaches just winged it.
Well,
Well,
I
go
didn't
for
want
it.
to forget anything.
No, I've got my notes all the time. I can't just wing things most of the time.
Yeah. As far as our outside life outside of here. Oh, I forgot to tell you, like, our family is obviously huge, and so we all live around here, and so
Right.
that's the other
So
hobby,
life
I guess,
outside of
is
MNU is the hobby.
it's all
is the
family.
Yeah.
It seems like we have a family calendar, so we know when other kids' games are and birthdays. There's a birthday at least once or twice a month.
Oh, that's great.
In our family.
That's great. My family is far away, both sides, Colorado and Illinois. So we don't get. Yeah, it would be nice to have such a big family like that.
Yeah, it is nice. And then, yeah, we are always like, hey, can you watch so and so?
Sure.
It's a nice even trade.
Right.
What else? Yeah, Isogenics has helped keep me sane. I'm gonna give a little shameless plug that
Isogenics. I don't know
it's
what
just
that
a nutrition company that
Oh.
I've been working with them for 5 years.
I'm really big into nutrition, so I should know who they are.
Oh, stop! But it really has helped me stay sane and not have to feel like I have to rely on meds, I guess. I don't know.
Right. No.
I mean, and I'm not saying that people probably don't need medication for things that I
No, that's a good topic,
went
actually.
through.
Mental health.
Mental health is
so on the forefront now,
Mhm.
and for you who went through the super dark, deep depression from a trauma, and then coming out of that, would have good insight on mental health issues, I would
Yeah.
imagine. And then a lot of times the mental health definitely needs medication. There's something there.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also times where you need more protein or more sleep or more exercise or something like that. And the brain can change that way too. And so, yeah, I've seen different podcasts or different talks about, well, maybe you don't need that expensive pill that can make you crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to do some clean and jerks or something like that. So, you know.
I do agree with that. Like, I feel like, yeah, the whole overall wellness is huge. And so if you can incorporate exercise, good nutrition, good sleep, good water, although I've only drank a little bit of my water today. My goal was to I thought I'd need more, but not during this, I guess. But yeah, I really do agree that mental health is important, and I try and encourage our athletes if they are really struggling. And that's another thing I feel like I'm pretty good at is I recognize when they're off.
Yeah.
And so I'll call them on it and
be Mama Rodden.
Yeah, that's,
there you go.
You know, I'm like, hey, you need to go take care of yourself. It's okay if you, you know, have to decompress, but.
Right. Yeah, that's something new in the last few years is taking a mental health day. And it was kind of scoffed at the beginning from tough guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never taken a day off. I'm never resting. I go, but, you know, maybe you should.
Yeah, so you don't completely
Why don't you
lose it.
just take a day? It's fine. You know, your job isn't that important. You can take a day. The world still spins. But, it's...
your perspective changes.
And it's all been shifting in the last few years for the better, I say.
Yeah. Well, I've just noticed, I feel like, and I, you know, have heard, you know, we have quite a few people on anti-anxiety or whatever meds, and part of me is like, I don't really understand that. And I also don't want to be like, well,
you're doing it wrong.
But I also don't want to, I understand you probably legitimately need, you know, you need some help, and I get that. Another thing I did was, you know, whatever mood I was in during those dark days, I would pull up whatever podcast or sermon. Like, if I was angry that day, I listened to a sermon on how you use it for good and not for bad. And so, I mean, I really believe in that too, that, lean on the Lord and he'll guide you and just give you the right path, and you just might have to search a little bit for it. And
well, with Harper especially, during those dark days, the comfort of the knowledge of that blessed hope that we talk about, of seeing her again, that's not just lip service to us.
No.
So it's real, and that I mean, can you imagine going through that without God or without a church family? You know,
Yeah.
it's.
And I see people go through that.
real.
You know, I'm on a part of groups,
Right.
Facebook groups that, other child care loss
Sure.
families and stuff. And I just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to do it without our faith. That's for sure.
Well,
So-
on that uplifting note, I mean, let's wrap this up. So
Certainly you have something to finish off with a little sass.
some sort of humor.
Some
yeah,
sort
I'll do
of, you're good
a
at that.
a dance off the stage.
What we
here.
should do is I can show you how to do a clean and jerk or
Okay, well.
snatch with, I don't know. I know the weight room's moved, so
Right.
we can use your bats. You got your bats in the corner.
We'll do that. We'll do that next time. All right. Let's wrap it up. So, for Whitney Rodden, I'm Chad Jenkins. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Podcast number 5 out.